Coming to you from the TheEoNProject Studios, perched high atop the banks of the majestic Blackstone River. Greetings from the jewel of the Blackstone Valley. You're listening to Experts of Nothing with Mike and Jay. Hey, Mike.
How's it going?
Another day, another dollar.
You make that much?
I wish.
We get paid for this, right? I haven't. The reason I ask is I haven't received any payment yet.
You won't be getting any payment from me. That's for certain.
Well, it's just you and I.
Well, who else would be paying us?
I should have thought this through.
We should pay each other.
That'd be a good idea.
We'll throw some money down, and we'll throw some money in
Whoever has a better show wins the money.
How about this? You just throw some money in a bag. I'll throw some money in a bag. We don't tell each other about it.
I don't have any money.
And then we'll exchange the bag at the end, and we'll see who's left.
Well, you're cheap, so I know that I will come out on the short end of the stick.
That is true.
So last week we discussed. What did we discuss last week?
Last week I think I talked about reincarnation and past life events,
and we talked about the killer cult that was behind some of history's most crazy serial killer groups and people.
That's true. We didn't prove it though.
Well, you know what? I was thinking about this, and I think our show is more of a spurring of discussion for people rather than solving anything.
I think so.
We're not going to solve these things because we're not that bright.
I'm not bright.
So all we're going to do is talk about these things so that people can hear.
We'll talk about them, and you know what? There may be a time or two where we might be off. We might be wrong about something.
I don't know. Maybe that could happen.
I did discover that Wilford Brimley is still alive.
Oh, the diabetes.
I think he's in his 90s.
Does he have the diabetes?
He's got the beatus. He does the commercial for it.
I haven't seen him lately, though.
Well, I don't think he's acting much lately anymore.
Oh.
It's like Sean Connery. He's going into hiding.
Sean Connery doesn't need to act.
No, definitely not. No. So I got to tell you, I did I played a little golf yesterday.
You probably shouldn't clear your throat on the air.
Sorry, I probably shouldn't do that. I got to get out of the habit of doing that.
That's not a good habit.
So I played a little golf yesterday.
Was that right?
I played in a golf tournament. Prizes to be had by the winning team.
You're not a good golfer, so I'm assuming you did not win any prizes.
That's what's frustrating to me about golf is that over the years I've been known for my athletic prowess.
Really?
Yeah. I'm a very athletic fellow. I can do lots of different things.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm muscular. I'm fast. But I play golf, and it's like I lose it all.
Well,
coordination.
Golf, I don't know that golf is a sport. It's more like a difficult activity.
I don't know what it would be called, but for me, it's frustrating. I can't hit the ball, and when I do, I shank it.
Do you just like to go outside and play and have some beer?
That's pretty much what I did. I went outside, although it was cold yesterday.
Yeah,
here.
it's still it's cold, which is
cold.
Not good for anybody.
Cold, so I didn't. I tried to rush through the course.
Oh.
And yeah.
Well, I wanted to discuss before we get into the topics for today.
Sure.
I did get some listener feedback over the last couple of weeks.
And they told us to shut down, didn't they? One
of the words of advice that I got from a dear friend who shall remain nameless was he asked, "Hey, do you mind getting some criticism?" And I said, "No, go ahead, lay it on me." And he said, "You guys should quit." So I said, "Well, that's pretty direct.
A very good friend then.
That's some good criticisms."
Really?
So no, I mean I think that we soldier on.
Just through conversation I've had with a few people, I've had some positive feedback. Although I did get one criticism. I won't elaborate on it yet, but that's I take everything that we take everything to heart, and pushing forward, we're going to strive to be bigger and better each and every time.
And along those lines, we're going to give out the website now because our website is live.
It is live.
You can search it, you can find it, and we're going to give you the address now. So it's TheEoNProject at. No, wait, I'm sorry. It's TheEoNProject.com. So it's TheEoNProject.com. And you can see our beautiful faces on there.
You can see our faces. I think you can message us from the site.
Yep, you can send us messages from the site, and then our email address is also linked on the site. And you can also get to our social media platforms, which is LinkedIn. No, not LinkedIn. Facebook.
And
Twitter.
LinkedIn
is for professional people, which we are not.
Yeah, I'm not on that, that's for sure.
So anyway, but before we get into the topic for the day, I wanted to ask maybe your help and maybe the listeners' help with a situation that I have at work. So
it doesn't have to do with gas through a mesh seat, does it?
No, that was last week. So this is actually something, but kind of along the same lines. Mm-hmm. So I'm having an ongoing situation in the public restroom area at my work.
Okay.
So I want to talk a little bit about it if I could.
Public meaning outside or just...
No. Just public.
The general restroom for the employees.
Public for the employees.
I see.
Okay, so I'm not going to give anything away about my workplace because that would be bad business. However, it's fair to say that I used to occupy a section of a building where there was very few people. Okay, so it was kind of deserted, which I liked.
So you had free run of the toiletries.
Yeah,
the toilet
so it was
facilities.
one of those. It was a beautiful toilet facility, right? Because no one ever used it, and it was always clean.
Right.
So fairly recently, there's been a influx of interlopers from another floor.
I see.
Who have moved into our area.
Is there something wrong with their bathroom?
No, they've switched. They've switched working conditions or whatever, what have you. So they've occupied the spot where there previously wasn't anybody. So now there's an influx of people into the bathroom.
I see.
So now I can't ever get in there when there's no one in there.
And if you did, you wouldn't be able to relax at all.
No, you can't relax. You used to be able to shut the door. You'd be in there for such a long period that the motion-activated lights would turn off, and all of a sudden you're in the dark, and you felt okay about it.
So when the lights go off on you, you start flailing around.
You gotta wave your arms around, and you can't see it on radio, but I'm waving my arms about.
I see.
So anyway, this happened to me a couple of weeks ago, and I want some help with it because I don't know what happened.
Well,
I feel like I could have been assaulted.
Well, bring it forth. Let's hear it.
I think my life was in danger. So I walk into this, and I need to explain the layout of the bathroom. So I walk into the public bathroom, and I always select the stall that's furthest away from the door. Which, that's what people do, right? You don't.
Well, customarily, you try to get as far from the door as possible.
Yeah, you don't want to be right in front of the door.
No, definitely not.
So I walk down all the stalls, and I get into the stall, and I sit down. I put the ass gasket down. The paper liner.
Of course.
You got to put that down. Sometimes I double it.
Double it up?
Yep.
Now, is it? Do you have the pre-made?
Yeah, the pre-made die
pre-made
cut
ones.
The die cut ones.
Oh, those are great.
Yep. So I lay down the ass gasket and I sit down and I start to do my business. I just cleared my mic into.
Yeah, don't do that.
Which I shouldn't do.
Okay.
Anyway,
continue.
So somebody came into the bathroom shortly after I had begun. Instead of doing what normal people would do, which would be select a stall farthest away from you, or better yet, don't go into a stall at all, but utilize the urinal.
True.
Right. So I'm thinking that this person, whoever this unknown intruder is they're gonna take a stall far away from me, and I'm still safe. No. So this person decides to get into the stall right next to me, right adjacent to my stall.
Clearly, they have no concept of personal pooing space.
Right. So now what do? I don't know what to do. I'm cowering because I don't know what's going to happen.
Are you scared at this point?
Well, I don't know if I'm scared. I'm not really, I'm not scared at this point.
You don't scare easily.
No, but this guy, I'm assuming it's a man. I don't know. So
could you see the footwear?
Yes. This is important to the story.
Yes.
So whoever the individual was, he was wearing brown shoes.
Like a wingtip?
No, like a
loafer.
No, like a like a hiking boot.
Oh yeah.
Like somebody who eats a lot of granola would wear.
Sure.
Something like that. So he sits down and starts doing his business, and I don't know what to do. Do I wait? Do I get up? Do I end my session? What do I do?
Well, the problem is that it's ruined for you now.
Yeah.
Because you no longer can you relax.
Nope.
Because that's the key to a successful lower intestine movement would
It
be
needs to be quiet.
Quiet. There has to be relaxation.
Some sort of music.
Otherwise, either it gets cut off too quick, and you get backed up.
Yeah,
there's no recapturing the relaxing.
Well,
moment.
it retreated like a frightened turtle.
It did.
And so anyway, now it's ruined. Like you said, I'm stuck there. So I had to wait. But then this person didn't make any audible noises. Okay, there was just silence for a few moments, and then the person got up, flushed the toilet, walked over, washed its hands for about 2 minutes, and then left the bathroom.
And that's it.
Never
to be seen again.
No, and the reason I bring it up is because if that was a standalone incident, it would be scary and horrifying enough. However, Mr. Brownshoe has been in there now repeatedly, and I've never seen this person's face. I don't know what to do.
You know what you need to do is do a little office recon.
Yeah.
Start crawling around on the floor.
The problem is a lot of people that work in this place, and they all they have different footwear. I can't just walk around staring at people's feet.
Of course you can. You're gonna have to. You got to figure out who.
I don't know, but Mr. Brownshoe, I have it in for you. You have it in for me, and it's an office rivalry.
Hopefully, this person's listening.
Well, it's a distinct possibility because people I work with do listen to the show.
They do.
Yep.
Oh, sorry for them.
So,
anyway, that was a good story.
Well, it's a true story.
Let me just leave it at this. Don't confront the individual. Once you finally identify who it is.
What would I say anyway?
Well, you could just say, "Give me some space in there."
What are you doing? Get into the stall. You're too close.
All right. Well, that was good.
Anyway,
interesting.
So we're going to talk about a couple of different things today, right?
Yeah, I think.
Well, we have an overriding theme.
Sure.
For today's show.
Yeah. It's kind of a musical show.
Musical show.
In the sense that we're going to talk. So It's going to be mysterious, but yet musical at the same time. Then there's going to be an extra special treat halfway through the show. I won't reveal what that's going to be quite yet.
Ooh, special treat.
I'll just put it this way. It's going to be some sort of live musical performance.
Wow.
Yes, we have a special guest here today.
Special guest in the studio today.
And they're going to do an acoustic performance here, and hopefully it'll be great. Yeah.
Wow. So we're going to talk about some mysteries in rock and roll history.
Yeah.
Legends, things of that sort. No shortage of topics to discuss.
Definitely not. And, of course, the typical nonsensical banter that occurs.
We don't have
during
any
the
of that. Nothing like that happens
No?
on the show.
Oh, all right.
And
You
then
wanna start?
Yeah, so anyway.
Yeah.
So for my part of the show today, I wanted to go reach way back into history. But, well, relatively back into history. So you're familiar with the blues, I'm imagining.
The blues, yeah. It's a genre of music that's been popular for many, many years, and the beginnings of rock and roll were blues-based, essentially.
Right. So essentially, right, rock and roll was stolen from blues, basically.
Pretty much.
You said. Okay. So there's a very famous blues musician by the name of Robert Johnson, which many people have heard of, but many people have not heard of, and he's largely considered to be the godfather of the Delta blues.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does, sure.
How do you be a godfather of something like a genre?
Well,
I can understand being a godfather of a person.
I think if you're at the beginnings of a certain particular movement,
Oh.
and you excelled in that field, and you brought it to the forefront of music, or just in this case music, but popularity in general, I think you could be considered a godfather. Sure.
Well, Robert Johnson is considered to be the godfather of the Delta blues, which is a southern. Most blues are southern, but southern part of the United States.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Mr. Robert Johnson was largely considered to be a subpar guitarist in the blues business. So he was not considered to be very good, and he went from not being good to being one of the most recognized as one of the most influential and best blues guitarists of all time in a very, very short amount of time. And people are wondering how that could take place.
Right. It seemed to happen almost overnight.
Almost exactly overnight. So legends started to grow, especially because Robert Johnson recorded songs such as Hellhound on My Trail, songs about seemingly about the devil and having a cursed life.
I see.
And things of that sort.
Right.
So some people started to think that Robert Johnson had actually made a deal with the devil in order to become a good blues guitarist. And that's kind of a theme that we're going to be centered on today, because a lot of the anecdotes and stories that we're going to talk about rock and roll legends have to do with supposed pacts with the devil.
So aside from the music, how do people infer that there was a deal there? Could you be more specific in terms of how that would have occurred?
So this part's kind of shrouded in the mists of history and time, but the story goes like this, and probably the best way to tell it is to tell a story. So legend has it that Robert Johnson left a gig one night in the middle of the night, and he was in Mississippi, in a part of Mississippi called Rosedale, and his ride left him. He didn't have a ride any longer, so he started hoofing it. He's going to walk down.
Sure. With his guitar in
tow.
tow.
With his guitar, yep. So he's on his way to his
old six-string.
His next gig, and he's walking through a lonely part of Rosedale around midnight when he comes to a crossroads. Now, crossroads in history, and I don't think we've talked about that in this show, but crossroads throughout history have been known to be a magical place.
Right.
Where things happen.
Two things come together.
Right.
Odd happenings.
Odd happenings happen at crossroads. So anyway, around midnight, he comes to a crossroads, and he sees a large, dark-skinned man, dark face. Like, he's described as being dark. I'm not sure if that means that he was a black man or if he just happened
or if it was in the shadows.
Correct.
Yeah.
It could have been the shadows. Excuse me. And he sees this man on the side of the road who says he's there waiting for him, and he knows his name. So he says to Robert Johnson, "I'll make a deal with you. You're not a good guitar player."
And Robert says,
"That's
true.
Well, I'm doing my best, basically." And he says, "Well, I'll make you a deal. I'll make you the best guitar player in blues history. You'll have unlimited supply of whiskey and women."
Wow.
Which, who doesn't want an unlimited
Who would make
supply?
that deal?
Whiskey and women. Which Robert Johnson was supposedly a whiskey and women fiend.
Ooh.
He liked both of them very much.
Oh, that's a theme throughout music, actually. Music history.
Well, that's why a lot of people get into music because of that, right? So the understanding would be that this person, which he took to be the devil, actually referred to as the devil man in the story, that he would always have his hand on Robert if he made the deal, but he would make him, like I said, a legend in the blues. So supposedly he made the deal, and from that night on, he was recognized as the king of the Delta blues.
So suddenly he had these almost
magical,
supernatural
Yes.
guitar playing skills.
That's right. But it didn't last very long because Robert Johnson passed away when he was 27 years old, which we're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Right, that does segue into something.
But before we get into that,
Yeah.
So the general wisdom is that he was poisoned with a poison whiskey laced with strychnine, and that a jealous lover of one of his whiskey women did him in.
Couldn't take it anymore.
Right.
Did him in.
Right.
Now, isn't there a story that when he was playing live that he'd kind of turn his back to the crowd or kind of conceal his guitar playing?
You know, that's
the
an
crowd...
interesting, and yes, I do believe that was part of the story where he didn't want anybody to see what he could do.
Right, and he never showed anybody kind of what he was doing.
That's right. So you know, there's a lot of mystery there.
Maybe he was an early version of Milli Vanilli. Maybe he had a backing track. He had a track going, and you know, of course, back then the electronics and the live sound were rudimentary at best.
Right.
So he was trying to find a way to conceal his guitar playing. So,
well, the theory is that the legend is that anyone can go to a crossroads in the middle of the night and not necessarily have the conversation with the devil. However, but the legend is if you take your guitar and you put it over your shoulder and you close your eyes, that the devil will take it from you and tune it for you, with the understanding being that now that is a deal that you just signed the deal, and now when you get the guitar back, it'll magically play.
So where can I go? Where can I go to meet this devil and have him take my guitar?
Well, a crossroads at midnight.
Crossroads or any crossroads?
Well, nowadays,
like if I went down the street and I stood at the corner.
You know, you never know. But I think maybe just doing it would be enough to invoke something.
What if I stood there and the local authorities came by?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. If you have pants on.
Oh, all right.
If you didn't have pants on, there may be a problem.
Oh, there's nothing in there that says I have to not wear pants, is there?
In the law?
No. In making a deal with the devil.
You know, I wonder if the devil would stay away if you didn't have pants on.
Probably.
He probably doesn't want to see it either.
No, definitely not.
Well, anyway, that's Robert Johnson in a nutshell.
Yeah, so he did die at, at 27, and that's a popular theme, and I'm sure some people have heard of what they call, it's known as the 27 Club.
Yes. Is that like the 700 Club with Pat Robertson?
Pat Robertson. He's going to live to be 700.
Is he still alive?
That's why it's called the 700 Club.
Why is it called the 700 Club? Does anybody know? I don't know.
I don't know. What's the significance of that number?
I don't know.
Do you watch Pat Robertson?
No.
Is he alive still?
I don't know. Didn't he run for president?
Years ago,
not this past time, but he ran for president.
I think so. Anyway, so the 27 Club. 27 Club is basically it's a thought or a theory that famous musicians, some actors, never make it past the age of 27. They all die horrific, mysterious, or drug-induced deaths at the age of 27.
I wonder why.
A lot of people say it's just coincidence and that there's no specific correlation between the age 27 and
it's just a happenstance.
It's just happenstance. But this is going back, and I think Robert Johnson was one of the first famous cases of this. As Mike stated, he did die at age 27 of strychnine poisoning. At least that was the official cause of death. But going throughout the years, there's been a number of people, and I think we're going to cover a few of them. Some of you have heard, some of you may not have heard, but there's actually a long list, and of course you can go right online and research that. But I think we're going to leave our list just to a few that you guys have probably already heard of, and maybe you knew they would die at 27, maybe you didn't. But
interesting.
So Robert Johnson, as we just talked about, another famous musician going to the 60s was a musician by the name of Brian Jones. Who Brian Jones was a founding member of the legendary rock band, the Rolling Stones. And speaking of, how is Keith Richards still alive after all these years, by the way?
Speaking of rock and roll legends and myths, there's an actual well-known myth that Keith Richards had to have blood transfusions and keep regularly to keep having his drug-tainted blood replaced with fresh blood so he doesn't die. Really? Yeah, that's a myth. I don't know if there's any truth to it.
There was also a myth that was it him that snorted his father's ashes or something like that?
Too. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's true.
But
he does look like an old catcher's mitt.
He is old. And I actually have achieved more of an understanding and appreciation for Keith Richards as a musician as the years have gone on. I always thought he was kind of a side figure in the early days of the Rolling Stones, kind of just along for the ride. But he's quite talented. I watched a documentary about him recently, and he played some music and stuff like that. He's pretty amazing. But anyway, Brian Jones, a multi-instrumentalist with the.
I'm always impressed by people who can play. I can't play any instruments.
No.
So you have somebody who can play multiple.
You definitely can't do any kind of finger instruments. You're
No, I have fat stogie fingers.
they're too fat. You can't manipulate the strings. So anyway, Brian Jones dead at 27. So his.
What were the circumstances around
So
that?
interestingly enough, the official cause of death. Well, he drowned in a body of water. Okay.
Why do they call it a body of water?
Well, because it's body shaped. It's like different shapes.
That's not true.
No.
Body of water?
Yeah.
Why is it called that?
I don't know.
Nothing to do with a body.
I'm not. No, I don't know
Body
that.
of water. It's just a receptacle of water.
Receptacle.
Some. Anyway.
Okay. Anyway, so on the coroner's report or the death certificate, it actually says death by misadventure.
You know you lived a great life when you have on your death certificate death by
You can only hope
misadventure.
that that's what it
awesome.
says when you pass away. So
yeah, that's a good life. Right
I can
there.
only imagine he was drinking, probably drugging it up.
Misadventure.
And, it could. Hey, you know what? Maybe he was a victim of the smiley-faced killer gang.
That would have been a long time ago, though.
He fell into water and he died.
Well, that's true, but was it a? It wasn't. Was it a pool of water, or like his swimming pool, or was it a?
It was. I know. All I know is it was wet.
I think it was his swimming pool.
He went in. Maybe. I think you're right. I think he dove off the deep end.
Didn't Natalie Wood also die in a body of water?
Who's Natalie Wood?
She was an actress.
Oh,
back in the day.
maybe she did.
But we're not talking about that today.
No. But that was 1969. So, and in the 60s and 70s were a rough time for the 27-year-old musician.
Well, before we go any further with the 27-year-old, do you think that there's a number of factors that go into a person who is living the rock and roll lifestyle, and by the time they reach to be 27, that's actually pretty old, right? Considering to be living that hard life.
Yeah, because obviously a lot of them start young, late teens, early 20s, and we all know that what goes with rock and roll lifestyle, as we mentioned before, drugs, alcohol, sex,
How do you
a
say
gluttonous life.
gluttonous? Although you don't see too many fat rock stars.
You don't.
They're all usually
because
skinny.
because they're all usually like on, cocaine,
Yep.
alcohol, and they're running around the stage, and
There's-
they're up all hours of the night.
You don't see too many fat drummers. I can tell you that.
Not a lot of there's a couple out there, but
Not many.
no, they moving around a lot. You get a lot of cardio
They're
back
usually
there.
svelte. They're svelte.
Yep,
Is that a word?
svelte. Yeah,
Svelte.
it's Norwegian. It means svelte. Yeah. So anyway, but going forward, just so another gentleman that I quite enjoyed his music, but he didn't last long. His name was Alan Wilson, and he was the lead singer of the band Canned Heat. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of them.
Canned Heat.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they did a couple hits in the 60s. He died in 1970, OD'd on barbiturates.
What is a barbiturate?
I think that's a downer.
Is that a downer?
That's what they said in
Uppers
school.
and downers?
The amphetamine was the upper.
Goofballs?
Greenies.
Greenies?
Yeah. So he was the lead singer of Canned Heat.
Dope. Not you.
Oh,
Just drugs.
thought you were going to start calling me names here.
No.
Okay. Jimi Hendrix. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of Jimi.
I've heard of Jimi Hendrix.
You have?
Yeah.
What's he famous for?
Jimi Hendrix was a basketball player for the 76ers in the 1976 finals, NBA finals. He dunked over Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
No, that's a different Jimmy.
Oh.
This is Jimi Hendrix.
Oh, Jimi Hendrix. Yes.
X with an X at the end.
Is that his real spelling of his name?
I don't believe so.
That's a stage name.
No, I think it is. Many people don't know Jimi Hendrix was actually in the Army.
I did not know that.
He was an airborne soldier.
Wow.
He was a paratrooper. He had a very substandard military career.
Oh.
And was actually discharged early. He got out. And there was some rumors that he didn't want to be in the Army, and he made up some stories that he was either homosexual or he was wetting the bed.
Back then, they would kick you out.
Yeah, he
for
was
that.
doing all kinds of things to get out of the Army, and he got booted.
So this would have been during Vietnam or before,
No,
prior to,
early 60s.
I see.
But anyway, as we all know, Jimmy's official cause of death was asphyxiation.
Yes.
But I think he drowned in his own vomit in a bathtub.
Was he addicted to drugs and alcohol?
He was a big-time alcoholic, for sure. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Going back many years.
Now, I'm not a musical historian, but isn't it true that Jimi Hendrix he couldn't afford a left-handed guitar, so he played a right-hand guitar upside down. Is that correct?
I don't know if it was a matter of he couldn't afford a guitar. I think that was all that was available to him at the time when he first started learning how to play the guitar. He was left-handed.
Yes.
So he took a...
Did they not make left-handed guitars?
Nah, they probably did. But he had a right-handed guitar. All he did was flip the guitar over, but he strung it like you would Like if he was playing
So
it normally.
he didn't play it upside down. He just played it.
No, the guitar itself was upside down, but the strings were tuned normally.
I see.
The way I understand it.
That's okay.
But still
impressive nonetheless.
Still impressive. And of course, he was a pioneer in the electronic and the rock and roll, that sort of musical style back in the 60s.
Isn't he largely considered to be one of the best guitarists of all time?
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
For sure. Good guy.
I don't know. I never met him.
I don't know. I didn't either. Hell of an afro, though.
He had a big afro.
And just shortly after that, Janis Joplin, who we all know.
We do.
She was a very famous singer from, she was from Texas, I believe, originally.
She was a blues singer, correct?
She was a blues singer, yeah. She could belt it out like nobody's business.
She had a powerful voice.
She was known for her, obviously, love of drugs and alcohol, as well as being very, very, very promiscuous.
Really?
Oh,
she
yeah.
was not
attractive.
She was not a handsome woman.
But I think that was part of it. Maybe she had low self-esteem.
I don't know.
So she felt like she had to sleep around. I don't know.
Looking at some pictures, I don't know.
Not attractive. And she wasn't known for her feminine hygiene either.
Oh.
Very, very hairy armpits.
No
things of that sort.
No landscaping of any kind.
No, definitely not. And especially being the 60s? No.
Oh, no. And I don't think I could have existed in another time. 60s, 70s, the lack of hygiene.
I think the 70s was better.
Don't you think, though, that you look at people from the 70s and you look at pictures and stuff, and they have the weird upholstery, and they have their seersucker suits.
It's kind of creepy.
And they probably stunk really bad. They didn't have the hygiene products that we have, and we take advantage of and take for granted.
We do. We have good hygiene these days.
We really do.
For the most part.
Yeah.
Hot showers every day.
Every day.
Most people. Some people don't, obviously.
Some people don't.
You
can find out when you get in the elevator with them.
You have quite the selection of fragrant soaps and things. Hey, let me ask you a question.
I'm a big fan of fragrant soaps. I like different soaps.
Do you feel like you have to change up the soaps now and again?
Well,
or do you have one standard?
We have a standard at our household that probably just because the wife purchases all of those things.
Yeah.
But I enjoy strange soaps, and sometimes I will seek them out when going to, a general store.
Sure.
Like those old-timey stores.
Oh, yeah,
Sometimes they have like the handmade soaps.
Yeah.
They have weird ingredients in them.
Yeah, like a honeysuckle.
Yeah, you get like an orange ginger rosemary soap.
Now let me ask you this: when you're when you're in the shower,
yes,
you're enjoying the hot shower.
I do enjoy a hot
getting
shower.
all lathered up and all that. Now you have a specific routine that you do in the shower, like you wash the head first.
Most
the body.
men stick to a couple of different areas and don't really mess too much with anything else.
Now, do you use bar soap for the hair as well, or do you use shampoo?
No, I use shampoo.
Really?
Why would you ask such a question?
No, I just use the bar soap.
You use bar soap on your head?
It's soap, ain't it?
Well, no, because shampoo is different. It's molecularly different.
No, it's soap. It's soap. It's the suds action that you get going.
The suds actually don't clean anything. We've talked about this.
No,
before.
That's what cleans.
The suds does not clean anything.
The sudsing action.
No, it's a byproduct.
Then why do you think why do they call it scrubbing bubbles then?
Because it's a marketing tactic, just like a toothpaste. When you're brushing your teeth, the little bubbles, they don't do anything. Toothpaste could not foam up or lather at all, and it would still be working.
No, I don't think so.
The suds don't.
I don't think so. I think you need to look that up.
No, it's a byproduct.
The more suds you get, the cleaner you get.
I don't think so. I think
that's why I get so lathered up and slippery in the shower.
You've bought into the Procter & Gamble lie.
It's almost dangerous. It's how slippery I get.
You're falling out of the shower. I fell out of the shower recently. I did.
Did you get hurt?
No, strangely enough, I slipped and fell. It was one of those times where reality stops moving for a moment, and I wound up bare-assed and wet on my floor, thinking, "What the heck just happened to me?"
It almost doesn't seem like it's happening.
No, it's like
slow motion.
And people die doing that. I can't believe I didn't get hurt.
So a quick falling out of the story shower for you.
Falling out of the story shower.
When I was in the military, I was fortunate enough to. I think we had a long weekend for the Thanksgiving weekend, and I wasn't able to come home. So a friend of mine opened up his home to me and said, "Hey, why don't you drive?" Because he didn't live that far away with his family. He said, "Why don't you drive home with me? We'll go visit my family, have a nice Thanksgiving dinner." I said, "Hey, that's what Marines do for each other. We take care of each other, feed each other." So I said, "I'll go with you." So we went to his house, enjoying Thanksgiving with his family. I slept over there. Next day, I go in the shower. His whole family's downstairs now.
I thought you were going to say that his whole family was in the bathroom watching.
No.
That would have been the story better.
That would have been a better story.
Yep.
So I'm in there. I'm getting all sudsed up, with the soap. I wash my hair with the same bar of soap. And I think I got too sudsy because my feet.
Sounds like
my feet got slippery. And I didn't have one of them sticky
no mat.
Traction mats.
No traction mat, no.
Lost my footing, fell out of the shower, ripped the shower curtain down.
Why are you yelling?
Am I yelling? I'm sorry. I'm excited about this. And my whole entire body fell onto the floor, and I hit my head on the toilet.
Wow.
briefly losing consciousness.
Had you been drinking this day?
No, I was sober, 100%.
Wow.
I came to in a naked, sudsy mess.
No one had to come in and save you, did they?
No, but they were pounding on the door.
Wow.
and
How
then-
long were you in the bathroom?
I don't even recall. I don't
were
know.
you knocked unconscious?
It seemed like it was instantaneous, but apparently it wasn't.
You know what we call that? We call that a missing time event.
Yeah.
Maybe a UFO abducted
So I went
you.
downstairs. I was kind of embarrassed. Everybody was asking me if I was okay. They asked
Did you
what
have
happened.
a bump or a lump, or did you
I had a little bump on my head. I had some rash on my backside.
knock some sense into you?
But other than that, I was okay. It was embarrassing,
It's a great
though.
story.
Anyway, getting back to the 27 Club.
27 Club.
Yeah.
Did you have other?
No, I
examples?
have a few more. Actually, going up to present day, and I'll go through rather quickly so we don't dwell too long on
Yeah.
this. Obviously, Jim Morrison. We all know he passed.
Oh, yes.
1971. His cause of death was heart failure.
Well, I wonder why. Was he
was a
doing
bi-
many drugs?
Yeah, drugs, alcohol. He was a big drinker.
You know
as
what?
well.
A friend of mine, and he actually listens to the show, so I'm gonna give him a quick shout out to Jeff. Jeff, I think, pulled one of the best pranks on me of all time, and it involved Jim Morrison.
Really?
Yeah. So Jeff is a very, very well versed in rock and roll history. Has one of those minds. He knows songs and stories about songs. And
Oh yeah.
And he told me years ago that the Doors was a very unique band because Jim Morrison hated guitars. And Jim Morrison, this is what Jeff told me one day.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Morrison would not have a guitar on his albums, which now I know is a lie.
Sure.
But he had me going for a long time because he said, nope, Jim Morrison had a bad experience when he was a kid with the guitars, but he loved the sound of, you know what a calliope is?
It's like a stringed instrument, I believe, isn't
Well,
it?
it's like it sounds like a carnival almost, like that sort of instrument. And you can hear that on a lot of the Doors, but he would not have a standard guitar, which I think is not true because you can hear a guitar.
It's not true, but what I will tell you about the Doors is they didn't have a bass player.
Oh.
All the bass lines that were done for the song, especially in live performance, were done by Ray Manzarek, who was the organ player.
I see.
Yeah, so they didn't have a bass player.
I wonder because Jim Morrison's famous for going. Well, the Doors are famous for having long, drawn out instrumentals, right? They would just go on for a long time.
Yeah.
So I wonder what the band was thinking when Jim would like fall down or leave the stage. Like, oh, you just gotta keep playing.
Yeah, no, he'd kind of lay down.
They just gotta keep playing, like
like
the band from Star Wars. Just keep playing the same
keep going.
tune
But
over and
they'd
over
get
again.
really, get into it, keep going.
Yeah, I don't get the jam band thing. Like, you listen to the band play.
No, it's like the band The Who.
Yes.
You know, another famous British 60s
Who?
rock band. The Who.
The Who?
The Who.
It's about owls.
You know, and once again, I appreciate their place in musical history, but I don't know, I just could never get into The Who. They're a little too self-indulgent for me. Their songs go on, and they just drone on and on for hours, it seems.
Sometimes when you're lonely, you indulge in yourself.
That's a story for another day, my friend. All right, so
27 Club.
Jim Morrison, dead, 27. A gentleman by the name of Ron McKiernan, which
Never heard of him.
nope, but if you get some deadheads out there,
Oh,
he was a keyboard player and a singer for the Grateful Dead. He died of a gastrointestinal hemorrhage in 1973. I'm not
that's
sure.
gotta be a horrible way to go.
I'm not sure what spurned that.
He had a ripper, and he just.
I think he ate some bad Mexican.
Yep. He
and,
had a Taco Tuesday.
It was bad for him because he already had an ulcer, and the hot sauce just put him over the top.
That's not good.
That's
at
a
all.
tough way to go right
Yeah.
there. Pete Ham.
Ham?
Pete Ham. H-A-M. Ham.
That's a cool name.
Yeah, he was a keyboard
He's
and
a vegetarian.
guitar. He was a guitarist for the band Badfinger.
That's another term for another day.
That was suicide. He hung
Oh.
himself. That was 1975.
That's not good.
Just couldn't hang anymore, so
Ooh, too soon.
he died. Poor guy. 27 years old. More recently, Kurt Cobain, obviously famous.
Yes.
And actually, that could be a show
That's
all
a
on its
show.
own.
No, and the reason I purposely did not talk about Kurt Cobain earlier, and I don't think you have anything about him later in this program, but you're right. That's a story for a whole other day. I did actually see a very, very interesting documentary regarding the Kurt Cobain case.
Yeah,
It was called Bleached.
I did see that as well. Yeah,
Very, very well done. Brings up some really interesting. I don't know if they're true or not, but really interesting aspects of the Kurt Cobain
why he possibly could have been murdered. It could
murdered
have been a stage scene and all
yep,
that stuff.
A
But
lot of inconsistencies. The investigation was handled very poorly.
yeah,
Just a lot of weird.
you know,
stuff.
and that brings us to the phenomenon too of, and something we can talk about a little bit later on if we have enough time, is the idea that a lot of these rock stars, they don't actually die. You know, there's always the stories of, Elvis is alive and all
Yeah.
these people are still alive, and I think people have a hard time letting go of their They're icons,
Probably because their music lives on, and so they don't see them as dead because you can turn on the radio and hear them, or your MP3 player, or whatever the case may be.
But anyway, as we know, Kurt killed himself with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Put the barrel in his mouth and
that's not good either.
No, it was actually he also had a large amount of heroin in his system, so it looked like he injected himself with enough heroin to actually kill himself 10 times over,
and then he still had the presence of mind to shoot himself.
Well, that's the theory.
If you're gonna do that, why would you do that?
I don't know.
Make sense?
But tied into Nirvana, in that same year, the band Hole.
Oh yes.
Courtney Love's band. Obviously, she was married to Kurt Cobain, but Hole's bass player Kristen Pfaff. Pfaff.
That'd be a hard name for someone with a
P-F-A-F-F. How would you say that? Pfaff.
Pfaff.
Pfaff. Anyway, she died of
a hard one.
Heroin overdose. 27. And most recently, you might find this interesting. I don't know if you're into the reboots of the Star Trek movies.
Not especially.
No, me either. But anyway, the guy that played Chekhov.
Yeah.
Anton Yelchin.
Oh, this is the new Chekhov.
The new Chekhov. No, the new Chekhov in the reboot. Did you hear how he died?
No.
Well, first of all, he was a guitarist for the band the Hammerheads.
That's a cool name.
But he was also an actor as well. That's why he's on this list. But it was blunt traumatic asphyxiation, I believe. And that happened in 2016. So he was driving a Jeep Cherokee, a new Jeep Grand Cherokee.
Oh,
and
I like those.
Apparently, he pulled it into his driveway. This is the story that I understand. And then he got out of the car thinking that the car was in gear, but in park, but it was actually still in gear. It was in drive. And he walked by the front of the car. And when he did, the car actually rolled forward and pinned him between the wall and his vehicle. And he got trapped there, and there was nobody there to help him.
That's terrible.
And it crushed him. Oh. I'm not laughing because it's funny, because it's not funny at all.
That's terrible. No, when did this happen?
Last year. Yeah.
Wow, what a way to go.
I know. So
so the moral of the story
a word to the wise, if you're driving a newer model Grand Cherokee, so I think some of them have the little dial. You ever seen the dial?
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but yeah, it's like
I think that's what it was. I think it was a dial.
So you're just not sure if it's in park or not.
Yeah, so always make sure that you're in park and put the emergency brake on.
That's a public service announcement from the TheEoNProject.
That way you don't get crushed by your own vehicle.
Nobody wants to see that.
But so that's the list. That's the list of the people that I think most of us have heard of. But there's a lot more on the list.
Of all died at 27.
All at 27 years old.
So what do you think the cause of this is? Is there
lots of drugs there?
Yep.
Lots of rogue Jeep Cherokees running around. Gastrointestinal distress.
So there's no common thread.
No, mostly drug and alcohol related, I would say.
Yes.
But there has been some other strange occurrences of death as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into the next part of the show, we had teased something earlier. We were going to have a special guest musical performance here in the studio.
That's right.
And hopefully the Curse of the 27. Well, we're both way older than that.
Yeah. So fortunately, we made it past that.
We've made it. But we're gonna have a brief. Well, how would we introduce this? How are we gonna?
So we won't keep him in suspense any longer.
Okay.
So I myself, Jay, this
speaker,
this portion of the duo here is going to play a song on the guitar.
Oh.
And Mike on the other end, say hi.
Hello.
Mike is going to sing a song on the guitar, and I think we can all appreciate, Mike and I know especially, we're fans of Johnny Cash, right?
Well, yes, we are fans of Johnny Cash, and actually, Johnny Cash is a part of rock and roll legends because most people think that Johnny Cash served time in jail, in prison. But is that true?
Well, he did play, in prisons for the inmates on occasions.
But he himself was never.
He never went to jail.
No. But that was his image. That's what he loved, the man in black image, the outlaw. He's actually. Would you consider him to be outlaw country? That genre or?
Nah, I don't know if it'd be outlaw country. I guess you could say that. A Boy Named Sue.
Yeah,
kind of.
Rockabilly. You say?
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
So why don't you introduce the song and we'll get it going?
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna sing a song from one of Johnny Cash's most famous songs. He recorded a live album in San Quentin Prison, and this is one of the most famous songs from that, and it's Folsom Prison Blues. I hear the train a-comin', it's rollin' around the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps a-rolling on down to San Antonio. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blow, I hang my head and cry. I bet there's rich folks eating in a fancy dining car. They're probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can be free. But those people keep a-moving, and that's what tortures me. If they free me from this prison, if that railroad train was mine, I bet I'd move it on a little farther down the line, far from Folsom Prison. That's where I want to stay. And I'd let that lonesome whistle blow my blues away. Thank you.
All right, Mike, what a great job that was.
Well, you know, we do our best.
You have a such a silky smooth, Johnny Cash-esque voice, if you will.
That's about all I can do.
That was amazing.
Well,
So that's your range? It's limited to that?
Very
or-
limited.
Yeah?
Very limited. Yes.
No high notes for you, huh?
No, I stopped doing high notes long ago
Mm.
when my testicles descended. So,
All right, well, let's
No, well, that
continue
was
on with the
interesting.
show. Yeah.
So we're going to continue on with a rock and roll legend show. Before we go any further in the show, just want to plug the website again. So it's TheEoNProject.com, TheEoNProject.com.
and they can reach us at the Eon Project at yahoo.com, also
And
as an
on-
email.
yes, and also on Facebook and on Twitter.
That's correct.
I twittered.
Why wouldn't you want to follow us?
You know, everything that we do is awesome. Everything.
I think so.
So we're on rock and roll history legends. Strange things happen to do with rock and roll and music and the music industry.
Mm.
So something that I want to talk about next actually goes back to something that we talked about last week. And that's Mr. Aleister Crowley.
Crowley or Crowley?
We say Crowley because that's what the cool people who do podcasts say.
Ah.
So I don't know how you actually say it because Ozzy Osbourne said Crowley.
Yeah, but if you look at the word, if you break the word down, C-R-O-W,
Crow.
it would be Crow.
Lee. Anyway, this really doesn't have to do with Aleister Crowley. It has to do with Led Zeppelin, which is a much more cooler subject to talk about than
They're very
Aleister Crowley.
mystical, mysterious band in itself.
Yes, however, it does have to do with Aleister Crowley as well. So, Jimmy Page, you know who Jimmy Page is? Jimmy,
Yeah.
the
He's
guitarist,
the guitar virtuoso of Led Zeppelin.
guitar virtuoso of Led Zeppelin. So, right around the early 1970s, when Led Zeppelin was starting to become the world driving force in rock and roll, selling out stadiums all over the place. So Jimmy Page started on a mystical journey, if you will, towards the occult. You like to say the word the occult?
Occult. When I think of the occult, I always think of something. It sounds evil. It sounds like something you're dabbling in that's not very good.
Yeah. So Jimmy Page was famously involved in the occult, and he actually purchased a country manor that was once owned by Aleister Crowley called Bullskin House. Now, Bullskin House, if you see it, it's a cool name.
Not moleskin?
It sounds like it would be like a castle, but it's really not. It's more like a country manor. I mean, it's a very
An estate?
very large house, but it was not like a castle, and it's actually still there. You can still see it, but it was owned by Aleister Crowley in the late 1890s, and it was a place where he went to find seclusion to start his magical rituals, if you will. And he actually bought this estate because he wanted to conduct rituals there, like I said. But there was one ritual that he wanted to do, and I don't know the details, and I wouldn't care to know. about the details of the magical ritual that he wanted to perform. But supposedly it took 6 months to complete this magical ritual, and he didn't have time.
Like day and night kind of thing.
Yeah, so like it's like a full-time job for 6 months was to complete this, and it was supposed to put him in touch with his guardian angel or guardian demon or whatever the case may be. So he had all these ritual stuff going on in the house, and he ended up abandoning the home before the ritual was finished. However, supposedly, he wrote in his diaries that the demons and evil forces have congregated around so thickly that they shut off the lights in the house.
And this is around the house and the property that this supposedly happened.
Right. So supposedly he conjured up all this stuff that was present in the house and on the grounds. And it was long said that the people who lived in the area, this is long before Jimmy Page bought it, that people were terrified of the place, wouldn't go near it, and it was just widely considered to be a really, really haunted, spooky place. But with all this mystery, it was said that there were consequences to the rituals that took place, and that was a bunch of tragedies that happened at Bullskin House and on the grounds. Mm-hmm. So one of the employees of the state tried to kill his wife and kids. It was claimed that he was possessed by evil forces, if you will. There was one, a lodge keeper by the name of Hugh Gilly. Hugh Gilly. It's a cool name.
Gilly?
Yeah. Like in Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah, that's the one of the characters there.
Yeah. Anyway, so Hugh Gilly lost his 2 kids suddenly in unexplained circumstances. A housemaid is said to have gone mad. A local butcher cut off his hand by accident while dealing with an Aleister Crowley butcher order.
Whoa.
That's scary, right? And then a new owner of the property. Actually, this is after right before Jimmy Page. A man by the name of Major Edward Grant killed himself with a shotgun in the bedroom that had been used by Crowley for many of his satanic rituals. So all this stuff, weird deaths and madness and stuff happened right before Jimmy Page bought the place.
Do you think a lot of it just through the power of suggestion?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Actually, there was a very famous experiment, and I won't get into too many details, but it was done on one of those, several years ago, the paranormal became really cool for a while, and everybody was doing paranormal shows.
Yep.
So there was this show that actually took they created a building in the middle of nowhere. They built this little house, and they made it look really old. So this is a complete made-up thing.
So it's like a social experiment.
That's correct. So they built this house, and then they put these people in it, thinking, and they told all the people that it was a haunted house.
Yeah.
And they made up all the stuff that happened there. And, of course, to a person, they all said, oh, I get the strange feelings, and this place is definitely haunted. So when in actuality, they had made up the entire thing.
Yeah, it's amazing how powerful the human mind can be.
Sure.
Can control and it can wreak havoc on you.
Right.
It can play tricks on you, especially at night. When you're sleeping, you're trying to sleep, you hear things, you see things, you have weird dreams.
I have weird dreams all the time.
Oh man, I have some weird dreams. We're
gonna do a dream analysis show.
I'm gonna reveal a little bit something about myself here quickly. So
don't reveal it too much.
No, not too much. So I recently have had the I don't want to say pleasure because it's not a pleasure at all. It's actually quite horrible to have to sleep with a machine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like robot love machine?
No, not any kind of love machine.
But I saw Westworld, I know.
Yeah. No, it's like a breathing machine.
Oh.
Yes.
Like a
CPAP
machine.
A pressurized air machine.
Okay.
Because I stop breathing when I sleep.
Ah.
But.
That's scary.
Yeah, I do. And I snore, and it's bad. It's real bad.
You're just a pleasure to live with.
No,
sure.
Not really. But I've noticed, since I've been on this therapy, they call it CPAP therapy, it allows me to get into a much more deep sleep. Mm-hmm. When the mask isn't, I'm losing a seal and I'm shooting air into my eyeball. But I have all these strange dreams, so I think I'm going to start. I'm gonna put a notebook
log
by the bedside, which I know people have done before, and start writing them down because they're very vivid, and I think it'd be a good show to talk about them.
Is it hard to fall asleep with that thing? Does you have to get
It takes some getting used to.
Wow.
It takes some getting used to. That's why I drink a lot of whiskey and take sleeping pills.
You and Robert Johnson.
Yep.
So, anyway, getting back to Led Zeppelin. So Led Zeppelin, right around the time where Jimmy Page bought Bullskin House, started to get involved in the occult, as I said. Many people don't know this. I actually found this out during the research for this show, that Led Zeppelin didn't name their albums, so to speak, right? They had like Led Zeppelin 2, Led Zeppelin 3, Led Zeppelin 4. So they didn't really name their albums, but on Led Zeppelin 3, in the acetate, you know what acetate is?
Isn't that what that's what they make an album out of?
Yeah, so it's like in the acetate, it was scrawled with a stylus, 2 phrases. One was "So mote it be," and "Do what thou wilt," which, as we know from last week's episode, that those are both tenets of the Aleister Crowley religion of Thelema.
That's correct.
So, or Satanism. So they started putting that in their albums, and it was etched into the acetate pressings of the album, like I just said, which is bizarre in and of itself. So supposedly, right around this time, Jimmy Page got all the band members together. So they were starting to get really big, but they weren't enormous yet.
Right.
Got all the band members together, and he said, "Hey, I want to conduct this is all legend, by the way. I want to conduct a magical ritual that will give us enormous popularity and power." And they all participated except one, which was John Paul Jones.
Oh, John Paul Jones. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind as we move forward in the story. So supposedly, either at Bullskin House or somewhere around that area, they conducted this magical ritual. Soon right after, Led Zeppelin met with enormous popularity. They were the biggest band in the world and all this stuff. And they were the kings of the world for a while until tragedy started to befall the band.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what happened to the band? Individual band members?
Well, obviously John Bonham passed away.
John Bonham died.
Was he 27?
That's a great question.
He's not on my list.
He was.
Maybe he wasn't.
I don't know that he was 27. He was around that age. John Bonham was a famous alcoholic, by the way.
Yeah.
But he passed away, I believe, in his sleep.
Isn't there a famous concert where he took? Oh no, wait. I'm sorry. That was the Who. Never mind. I was thinking of.
Don't.
I was thinking of Keith Moon, who took a horse tranquilizer and passed out in the middle of a show.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, so John Bonham died, but before that, because you skipped ahead.
Sorry.
So strange stuff started happening to the band. Robert Plant almost died in a terrible car crash off of a cliff when he had his wife and his kid with him. He somehow lived through that, but then soon after, Robert Plant's son died of a mysterious illness that no one could figure out. Did you know that?
Yes.
Tragedy.
Yep, little kid.
Yep, he was a small kid. He had a weird name. Karak was his name. I don't know what that means. So Robert Plant's son died. John Bonham died in a drunken stupor.
Yep.
Jimmy Page became addicted to heroin and was nearly comatose for an extended period. And the only person who made it through all of this stuff unscathed was John Paul Jones, who didn't partake in the magic, in the mystery, in the ritual, I should say.
Look at that.
So, what do you think about that?
I think that it just goes to show that the bass player is the wisest amongst the band. I got my start as a bass player.
Yeah.
And I am the wisest amongst us now.
Well,
so if the bass player says don't partake in a satanic ritual, I wouldn't do it.
So so the takeaway should be that if anyone comes to you and says, "Hey, do you want to participate in a magical ritual?" you should say no.
No,
because something might happen.
And John Paul Jones told me not to.
And John Paul Jones is still around and kicking, right?
He is. Yeah, actually, they've been mulling around. There's been rumors of a Led Zeppelin reunion, which something that they thought would never ever occur. But there's been some rumors and some innuendo out there that it might actually happen.
Well, because Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, and John Paul Jones are still around.
Correct.
And Jason Bonham, John's son, plays drums.
True.
So they could
do it.
Theoretically
They could do it. They could have the seed of John Bonham play the drums, and that would be almost as close as the original lineup as you could get.
Yeah.
So
same DNA.
Absolutely. So that was an interesting take on the music, mysterious.
Well, and this is just a small fraction of a lot of the musical mysteries that have happened.
Absolutely.
And we had considered, and actually when Jay and I did our radio show years ago, we had a guest by the name of R. Gary Patterson.
That's correct.
Who was a very famous writer who wrote a few books about rock and roll legends and
he's a rock and roll historian.
Yes,
and one of the things that we talked about during that show for a good portion of it was the Paul McCartney is dead theory.
Right.
That is a whole show unto itself. So we won't touch on it today, but
perhaps if this show gets popular, we would have R. Gary Patterson on again because he was really a great guest.
Yeah, he was a good guest.
And that was when we had an actual radio show, and he thought we were actual radio personalities.
Boy, did we fool him!
We fooled a few famous people, and I'm not going to talk about who they are today. But we had some great guests on our.
We actually had TV guests.
We had world famous people that had their own shows and everything.
Yep.
And
little did they know there was only about 5 people listening.
There was a couple of knuckleheads in an AM studio in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, who had these
self-produced, much like this show.
This show actually, you know what? You have more computing power in this show.
I do.
for the podcast than we had at the radio station.
No old school vacuum tubes
No,
or diodes.
You don't have to punch things to get it to work.
Nope, everything's state of the art.
Believe it or not, the studio had it. You know, remember those old phones that if you wanted to put somebody on hold, you had to push the plunger button in, and it would go like three inches down.
And you know what? As basic as the technology was, I still couldn't figure it out.
No,
I was always hanging up on people.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that.
Remember that? Yeah, that was a good time.
Well,
hey, before we go,
yeah.
One thing that I just, the other day we talked about, people wearing pajamas around town and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just these things they pop into my brain throughout the week, and I want to get your take on them.
Sure.
Because I value your opinion as a human being.
I appreciate that.
And so I always have to bring these things up to get a different perspective on things to make sure that I'm not crazy.
Okay. Well, that ship has sailed.
What's your thought? Now you get your hair cut, obviously, right?
I do.
Do you go to the do you get it coiffed at the local hair cuttery, or how
I go whatever the place that has the coupon.
Okay,
that's where I go.
What are your thoughts on the interverbal relations between the hair cutter, the barber, or the stylist, if you will, and the client?
I can tell you right now without having to think about it. There should be no verbal interaction whatsoever between you and the hair cutter.
None.
You
can't have any.
That is a time where you're supposed to be stoic.
Yep.
You stare straight ahead.
Yep.
You say nothing. If you needed to adjust whatever the instructions were for the hairstylist, then you do that at the beginning.
Yep.
And then you should be quiet. The entire process should be noiseless.
So there's too much pressure. There's way too
Sure.
much pressure when you get in the chair, especially with you have a strange stylist.
Yeah.
And they feel like they have to
but
initiate small talk.
Yeah, and they talk to you like they know you and
I don't want
to
to talk.
They don't care.
A lady the other day asked me, "Oh, what are your plans this weekend?" I'm like,
None of your business.
I don't know you.
Right.
I'm not going to reveal my plans to you.
Are you stalking me?
Not going to happen. I know what you're trying to do.
No,
You're trying to get into my mind. It's not going to work.
There should be no talking. And of course, I think that they want to be, well, two reasons. Number one, that they're probably bored and they want to have a conversation with somebody. And number two, they're looking for a tip. That's a service. It's a service industry.
I think they're told, as part of customer service, they should initiate conversation. But just keep in mind, people, if I come to the barber shop or the stylist or the salon.
If you happen to be a stylist.
If I happen to be getting a coif done, I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. I'll tell you what I want for a haircut. Yep. I might not even talk. I might even just show you a picture. And it's up to you to do the haircut.
Hopefully.
Let me be. There's going to be times where I close my eyes because I don't even want to look.
No, let me ask you this, because this brings up an interesting segue.
Yes.
So when they're cutting your hair, you know how they have to kind of get in front of you
Yep.
to cut like the front area?
Sure.
Do you close your eyes or do you stare straight ahead into their bosoms? Because ultimately that's what they are. They're going to be right up there.
I do close the eyes.
Yeah, because it's only I do as well, because you don't want them looking down and seeing you staring.
Definitely not. You don't want to be caught doing that.
Or when they're, are you supposed to shut your eyes so that I don't know.
Now, what do you think about when they ask? Because they ask me this all the time. They say, "Would you like me to trim your eyebrows?" I'm like, what are they trying to say? My eyebrows are too thick?
They must be, because no one ever asked me that.
Like, who trims their eyebrows?
Well, apparently they think you need to.
I guess I do.
Because you clearly don't have.
I don't know. I did take the eyebrow trimming though.
You did? How do they do it? They use these scissors,
like a comb and a little like a little beard trimmer.
So they don't use scissors or anything.
No.
Then I'd be nervous that someone's going to stick it in my eye.
You don't want to put the pointy scissor near the eyeball. That's dangerous.
Plus, you don't know who. I've offended many people in my life, and who knows who this person is? I may have offended them, or they may not like me. Who knows what they're going to do?
No.
So you don't want to shut your eyes.
Nope. So no talking in the barber chair,
No
unless
talking.
I initiate the conversation.
Yeah, but why
Which
would you?
I never would.
No.
I never
why would. You
would.
initiate
But
a conversation?
That should be a rule. It should be a hard and fast rule with barbers and hair. The client gets in the chair, okay? And if the client doesn't say anything, then the stylist doesn't talk, doesn't say anything, unless there's a question that needs to be asked specifically to the haircut. Would you like a trim hair? Would you like a trim? Would you like this? Would you like that? A service-related question. Other than that, nothing.
I wonder how haircuts happen in monasteries where they're taking vows of silence. I bet you they're silent there.
That's why they're all bald. They just shave their heads. There's no haircuts.
You can't stop it once it's in motion.
Nope, not at all.
Well, that about sums it up for this episode. But before we go, I want to give you the website one more time. It's TheEoNProject.com. TheEoNProject.com. You can also reach us at TheEoNProject@yahoo.com. And you can also find us on Facebook and Twitter through the website.
That's correct. So once again, I'd like to thank Mike for another exciting episode here on the Eon Project, and hopefully we can build a small army of dedicated and loyal listeners.
Drop us a line during the week, because we like to hear the feedback and show suggestions.
Feedback, yep. Show suggestions, yeah, because we're always looking for something interesting to talk about.
Yep.
So until next time, just remember, the truth exists. Believe it.